order to know God, in order to have know God, you can't try to confine God to your limited mind. Most atheists, at least the ones I talk to, they can't think outside of their shell, their three dimensions of space and one dimension of time. They're sort of stuck in a cave where they think they don't realize it's the universe is what, 93 billion light years across, 6 trillion miles in one light year. It's pretty big, and most scientists say it's infinite. So are you just a speck in infinity, and you just reduce everything to that speck and say there's no God, there's no spirit, there's no life after death, there's no nothing.
Nobody's given me a reason to believe it.
Outside the mind. But some of these things you have to accept that the way you know these things are in non-intuitive ways. They're not going to be able to be reduced to your logic in 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time. And I get
So if they're undefinable or unknowable, then how are you
I'm not
able to
saying
know they exist?
I'm not saying they're undefinable and unknowable. I said they just the way you have to know them from your limited perception of reality is different because it's because you are stuck in 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time. So the way that you have to experience these things is different. And I'll give you an example. Try to reduce a quantum system to your 3-dimensional understanding.
I don't even know what a quantum system is.
Well, this is why you have so many interpretations in quantum mechanics, because you can't do that. Because if I put a particle in a box, it has a non-zero probability of being everywhere in that box at the same time, as well as outside of the box, because of quantum tunneling. But for me, as a classical individual, if I'm in the bedroom, there's a 0 probability I'm in the kitchen. If I'm in the living room, it's a 0 probability I'm in the basement. So you have to think about quantum mechanics because of this. You have to think about it in a non-intuitive way. So you have Schrodinger's cat, you have William's friend, you have all these ways to try to, because you can't understand it intuitively because you're stuck in 3 dimensions of space. You don't know what it's like to be something that's non-zero probability everywhere.
So the way I understand it is you could quantumly tunnel because you're made out of things that themselves are quantum objects, but the odds of it are just so preposterously low that nobody's going to see it happen. It's like if I flip a penny, there's a 50% chance that it's going to land on heads. Those are very good odds. But if I flip a quadrillion pennies at once, it's not impossible that they all land on heads, but it's so unlikely that it would ever happen that we might as well say that it won't happen.
Exactly, but that's what I'm saying is that there are things in our universe, or systems in our universe, that we understand intuitively because we can't understand what's actually happening. If we can understand what's actually happening,
what's that got to do with God, though?
Well, that's the thing with God, is that if you ever listen to testimonies about God, if people talk about God, there's always this moment, this non-intuitive moment, because God is out. It's not like Erwin Schrodinger said, I don't meet God in space and time. Erwin Schrodinger said the honest scientific thinker acknowledges this, that God is outside of space and time, and that there is some, and this is in contrast to atheist or naturalist point of view, which reduces everything to our third rock from the sun. So you can't think outside. There's no God. There's no life after death. There's no life. No spiritual.
I can imagine those things. I just don't believe in them.
Yeah, we need evidence. That's the problem. There is no evidence to support the case of a creator or a god. That's
so
the problem.
let's do it. I don't believe in it because I don't think there's evidence. And you're saying that we couldn't comprehend it. So then my question would be, why even believe it?
No, I'm not saying that you couldn't comprehend it. You couldn't comprehend it within you have a saying in the Bible when it say let go and let God. You got to sort of let go your carnal mind and your limited 3-dimensional understanding of things, and you have to connect with God and believe God. Sometimes it'll be in a non-intuitive way,
because sounds like blind faith.
Because you have a carnal mind that's stuck in
Yeah,
three
this almost
dimensional
sounds
space and
like
one dimensional
basically you're
time.
saying throw out critical thinking and logic.
No, I'm not saying throw out critical. The Bible says, "Come now, let us reason together." What I'm saying is that you have to be able to accept it in your three dimensions of space. When you're not going to know everything, you can't even reduce a quantum system to your three dimensions understanding. You
We're
can't.
not
Okay,
we're not
how
quantum
You
we're
can't
not
even
quantum
how
reduce a
do
objects.
simple quantum
how
system
should I come
to
to an
your three
understanding
dimensional
that God
space.
exists?
You say, "How can
What would
you?"
be the steps that you would recommend a person take?
Oh, one of the first steps I would say that you should do is you should let go of your ego. Let go of your carnal mind. Your three
Don't
dimension.
think I have that much of an ego. I don't.
That will be the first step, and be like, look, the way I'm gonna come. Like I was reading a testimony the other day. A guy was in jail. He was in solitary confinement for stabbing people in jail. He got thrown in solitary
Me
confinement.
AF.
Yeah, and they gave him a Bible, and he threw it on the ground, but then he eventually picked it up, nothing else to read. Then he started reading about Jesus, and the guy all of a sudden just started breaking down into tears and sobbing, because he felt nobody could show him unconditional love because of the way he is. Now this same guy is out, married with children and going back to the old neighborhoods he used to terrorize and telling people about God, young people about Christ. He had a non-intuitive moment, an experience with his Creator, and that's what
Okay.
that's what I'm telling you is that
A
as an
subjective
atheist,
experience is not
as an
good
atheist, you gotta
evidence.
let go. You gotta let go of your three-dimensional ego.
Okay, I actually don't think I have all that much of an ego. So, okay, I let go of the ego. Sounds
Okay.
very Zen Buddhist to me. Cool. What do I do
You
next?
see it sound. Hey, you just openly ask God into your heart. You openly ask, you digitally seek God and ask God to show Himself to you. He says, "Come out. Any questions you have, ask Him any questions you have." And the Bible says He shows Himself to those who diligently seek Him. And again,
But
first,
how would I know it's
the
God?
first thing you have to do to recognize this is recognize that there's something greater than yourself. Do you think there's a potential that something greater than yourself exists in the universe?
I don't think I'm the only thing that exists. I don't believe in the supernatural.
Okay. Or when you say supernatural, define supernatural?
Operates or can work in ways that are not describable by any known
Well,
law
what's the
of
difference
nature or
between
physics or anything like that.
What's the difference between supernatural and metaphysical?
Define metaphysical.
Yeah,
Metaphysical isn't a
you know
thing.
what
It's just how we
metaphysics is, don't you?
describe
But what
things.
is metaphysics?
I guess supernatural is just a way we describe things.
Well, that's what I'm asking. What's the difference between if I'm saying something is metaphysical? I'm saying it's outside of, it transcends the physical. It transcends the natural. So is metaphysical supernatural, or is there a difference between the two?
No,
Validate
metaphysical is just the way
metaphysics.
we describe things that aren't super.
Yeah, it's the philosophical argument. Not has nothing to do with things that don't exist that we assume.
What you mean it don't exist? Well, how do you know the supernatural don't exist? Based on what?
We have zero
Well, how do you
evidence
know
to
the
support.
supernatural don't exist, but you
Do
know the
do you
I
understand
metaphysical?
what
don't.
super? What is the
We
definition of
don't know that it
supernatural?
doesn't exist. We just don't believe in it.
Well, how do you know that what you call supernatural just isn't something that's we just don't have the science and technology to understand?
Then it,
For,
by definition, wouldn't be
for
supernatural.
Yeah, that is by definition. If something supersedes nature, that is that's the definition, and we have never observed that.
yes, we have. There's plenty of evidence
Like
for
what?
things. What you
Like
call
what?
super. Hunter, do you think near-death experiences are supernatural?
Nope.
That's subjective experience.
Do you think near-death experiences are real?
Sort of. I mean, I've had dreams where I can do magical things, but I didn't actually do any actual magical things. But I really did have a dream.
Okay, this is interesting. Okay, now do you think that so if you think that's the case, do you think that's connected to life after death?
No.
Why not?
Well, I don't think myself nor anybody has any idea what the hell life after death is, looks like, smells like, or anything like that. So to connect something that we kind of sort of understand, dreams, to something that everybody has complete ignorance about, I don't think you can draw a connection there. I mean,
Why?
to me, that'd be like studying biology here on Earth and then asserting what life on other planets is like. I mean, there are some reasonable things we can guess, but I wouldn't attribute anything about, or I shouldn't say that. There's very little about life on Earth that I would attribute to life on other planets because I'm completely ignorant about it.
But let me ask you a question. So why um, we have a wave nature? It's called De Broglie. You ever heard of De Broglie wavelength?
Nope.
The De Broglie wavelength showed us that all things have a wave nature, no matter how large it is, no matter what. He won a Nobel Prize for showing that we all have a wave nature, which is connected to quantum mechanics. But if we all have a wave nature, how can your wave nature die?
Well, doesn't our wave nature come from like you can have like propagations in the electromagnetic field when atoms vibrate, they do that, but it comes from the physical material itself. When I die, other than maybe some heat that I give off for a little while at least, what although I would never turn into like my temperature would never reach absolute zero, I guess. But yeah, that would, I the waves don't die. Now I kind of lost myself in where I was even going with this. But like if the waves can't die, it's like okay, but those waves only happen because of my physical body. But also, I have no idea what you mean by wave nature or whatever.
I'm gonna show you what I mean by wave nature.
I
All right, here is where is that? Here's the De Broglie wavelength, basically, for you can see. Break it down in simple terms. Now on
H
the
over
left, I'm
MV.
gonna go, yeah, over real quick. This over here on the left side, this is the wave nature, that little crooked T, and that equals H is Planck's constant over momentum P. So that governs the wave nature of a electron, something small. And so on the something small, the wave nature dominates. Over here, this is just Newtonian mechanics. This is momentum equals mass times velocity. So what he did was he combined the two, and he has a wave nature for all matter. This is H Planck's constant over mass times velocity. So everything has a wave nature, has a wavelength. And as we get to a more larger scales, our particle nature dominates, and that's where you get a lot of atheism, a lot of people disconnected to their wave nature because our wave nature is vibration at such a low frequency, and as you get larger and larger and larger, but it's still there. But we still have a wave nature that's connected to H here, Planck's constant, and your wave nature cannot die because of quantum oscillations. You know what quantum oscillations are?
I don't think so.
Find that thing that you've always wanted in a
Quantum
place.
oscillations.
FireFrequency.com.
Quantum oscillations
Just
mean if you look at a quantum pendulum, and a classical pendulum comes to a complete stop, but a quantum pendulum will never come to a complete stop, even at its lowest energy scale, because of 0 point energy. So it'll always be some fluctuation in there'll always be some fluctuation in the quantum field if you have for a quantum system for H. Our wavelength which is connected to H, Planck's constant. It's quantum. So how can our wavelength die when your material, your physical particle nature die? Your physical nature, your particle nature is stuck in one point in space time. On the bed, for instance, when you're
Okay,
down.
okay. I think I see what you're
Your
trying to
wave
argue.
nature,
Hold
your
on, hold
wave
on.
nature
I
is
think
not your wave nature
Angel,
doesn't die
Angel.
when you die.
Hold on.
Right. Energy
You're
continues to
asserting
exist.
woo. You're asserting
What
woo on
woo?
this. I have my degree in
I'm talking
particle
about the De Broglie
I
wavelength. I ain't talking about
the
woo.
idea of I die just means my conscious experience ends, but the matter I'm made of doesn't cease to
But
exist, and that
yeah,
matter will
but it's important
necessarily
to say
release
your
some
wave
energy
nature.
into the universe.
It's important to talk about your wave nature because what your wave nature contains. And if you look to near-death experiences, which asked you about at the beginning, if you look at the research into near-death experiences, for instance, from Dr. Sam Parnia, now this is a guy who's a resuscitation doctor. His whole life, his whole job is to find ways to bring people back, to extend resuscitation techniques. So he spends his time in the ER reviving people, and he was in there reviving people, and all of a sudden, all these people, all his patients kept coming to him like, "Hey, doc, I saw you do this. Hey, doctor, this is what I experienced." And then the doctor was like, "Wait a minute, you were dead. You were brain dead. How could you experience any of this?" And then this doctor said he did some of the biggest studies when it comes to near-death experiences. And what I'm saying is that, I ended with this and listen to any comments. What I'm saying is that when you look at what happened with near-death experiences, it's exactly what we talk about with wave-particle duality. When a person says when they up
What?
above let me finish my point. A person says they up above their
You make a
bed
lot of
and
assertions
they're
with
seeing
no
their
evidence.
particle nature laying in the bed, dying because it's stuck in 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension at a time. As it starts to detach from their wave nature starts to detach from their particle nature, their wave nature begins to spread out all over space. So they not no longer
No.
confined by time. This is the one thing
The
you
wave
hear
function
What?
is
between.
literally
I
when
They're
the
don't know
not
particle.
what's
confined by
going
Hold
on
on.
time.
anymore.
The
So they
wave.
could be
Hold on. The wave function is
Wave
literally
particle
what the
duality
particle is.
in near death experiences?
yes, the wave nature. A person say, "Well, I imagine being with their family in a waiting room. They instantly in the waiting room. A person thinks
This is absolute
they don't
nonsense.
have no conception of time just because their wave nature is starting to spread out through space. So the only way you could deny this if you could show evidence that your wave nature dies when your particle nature is no longer being observed or measured in
That
3 dimensions.
that is a shifting of the burden of proof.
Show me, give me the evidence that your wave nature dies, stops, it doesn't evolve according to Schrodinger's equation, like every other wave connected to Planck's constant. Show me your wave nature dies when your particle nature
It has
is no
nothing
longer
to do
being
with
observed and
consciousness.
measured.
I'm perfectly happy to say that whatever this wave nature is doesn't disappear when we die, but
Okay.
you are attaching
Well, then you have to
wild
say, hold up.
implications to that, and you need
But you
to
have to
those
say there's life
implications
after,
need to
hold
be
up.
backed up.
You have to admit
I'm
then
holding.
that there's
I'm up.
there's scientific evidence for life after death. Do you agree?
No.
Come on, Peter. So you just said it. You just said you will admit that your wave nature doesn't die when you die. What Dr. Sam Parnia
The
says is
words
that
life and
what
or
Dr. Sam
the
Parnia,
concept of life after death does not occur anywhere in my admission that we release
you
energy
have to
after
say
we die.
hold up. If you saying your wave nature exists after you die, then you're just admitting to life after death.
Oh no, I did not.
Hold up. I'm sorry about
I
that.
don't think
You are
wave
admitting to life after death. If your
wave wave nature isn't
wavelength
life.
doesn't, hold
I
up.
don't know what
If your
wave nature is, but it doesn't sound like life.
wave nature
That's
contains
the Fulu
everything about
nonsense.
you. That's
Which
My
a
is
wave
wave
nature
nature.
contains
Hold up.
everything about me, but
Your
my
wave,
body is something
hold
about me,
up.
and
Your
my wave
wave
nature
nature.
isn't that.
Your wave nature contains your consciousness, your thoughts, everything about
Prove
you.
it.
All of your because
Prove it.
Right.
a
Where's the
wave.
evidence
Hold up.
for these claims? That's what I
I'm
want to
gonna
know.
prove it because the wave nature of an electron or a photon contains all information about the electron and the photon. It even contains counterfactual information. It contains more information than you could even encode information on counterfactual. This counterfactual information, they have counterfactual communication where they have encoded information on what's counterfactual. Counterfactual means what would have happened. So in quantum mechanics, on the wave function, you can encode information on what would have happened. That's called counterfactual. Read about it. It's called counterfactual
So
communication.
how does my wave nature contain everything about me?
Because it contains all the information about your particle nature. That's
But
what
my
a wave
particle
nature
natures
does.
aren't me. Are you telling me my brain is the? Are you telling me the atoms that make up my brain
yes,
is the
I'm
same
telling-
thing as the thoughts my brain has?
I'm telling you, there's something that's your wave nature that transcends your physical nature, your particle nature.
Are you telling me
but
that
you are
the
saying-
atoms
hold
that
up.
make up my brain are the same as the thoughts
Hold
that
up.
my brain has?
But you have, hold up. How is your brain aware of aware of itself? How is your brain aware that it's a brain?
I'm not sure. Could you tell me?
Because you have to have something metaphysical that transcends
No.
that.
Hold on. The
How
subjective
can you know?
experience of reality.
Let
Hold on.
me give you one quick example.
Angel, can I speak?
Here go one quick example, then I'll be
Angel,
quiet.
one moment. One moment.
quick
Angel,
example.
one moment.
Look at
Angel, can I speak?
Look at optical
Angel,
illusions.
Angel,
Look at
can I speak
hold
for
on,
a
let me
second?
just say this one thing and I'll be
Angel,
done.
no,
But
you
it's
hold
something
on.
completely different. We go on too many
It's
tangents.
not. You can't.
subjective
You can't
experience-
explain
Hold
how
on.
nature transcends
Angel,
nature. When
So
did we
the
start
subjective,
asking
the
why
human
am I
subjective,
alive? When did nature start
I'm
asking
just going
why
to
am
talk
I
over him.
alive?
The human subjective experience only exists because of the emergent properties of the brain. If you don't have
No, it
enough
doesn't.
information
That's
about
ridiculous.
what
There's
exists,
no evidence
you're
of
not
that.
going to have an experience in the first place.
There's no evidence of that. Let me give you an example. If you ever
Okay.
watch, if you ever listen,
Whatever.
hold up.
There's just no evidence of.
Hold up.
Okay.
If you ever listen to, hold up. If you ever listen to, when you listen to, for instance, mentalists or magicians or whatever, they had a show called Brain Games, very interesting. And they talked about how the brain is easily fooled. For instance, you could be fooled, the brain could be fooled into seeing a wheel spinning backwards and to think a wheel is spinning backwards. That's what a brain thinks it sees. So that's what you see. But there's something about us, something that transcends the brain, that knows the brain is being fooled. If we are just the material brain, why are we fooled seeing a wheel spinning backwards just like the material brain is? If that's all we are. There's something outside of the material brain that says, wait a minute, you're being fooled, brain. But if we are just the material brain, how does the material brain not know what's being fooled? Because every time you see the wheel, you're going to see it spinning backward. But there's something outside of the brain that knows this is not the case. That's not being fooled. So if we are just the material brain, why are we fooled and thinking the wheel is spinning backwards just like the material brain is? It's because it's something about us that transcends, and the Bible tells us that's the breath of life from God. It's something that transcends our material nature that understands these things. If we understand that the wheel is not spinning
Rambling,
backwards because we are
Anyways.
aware of our own consciousness.
Angel, my
And that's
question was,
actually really simply reasoned.
are you telling me that the atoms that make up the brain are the same thing as the thoughts that my brain has?
Are you saying they're two separate things?
I'm asking you if you're telling me they are the same thing, because I think the implication of what you were saying earlier was
No,
that.
they're not the same thing.
But you said that the wave nature, which comes from the atoms, contains all of the information about them, including counterfactuals.
Yes.
So that would have to imply that the wave nature of me is that the atoms that make up my brain are the same thing as the thoughts that it contains, because they could transmit that information. Plus, somehow, thoughts that I never had but could have had can also be transmitted.
And they transcend your physical nature. That's why you can't show me
It's a yes or no question.
You talk about anything in evolution that
Can you just
talk about
answer the?
that shows.
I just asked a yes or no question. Can
Yeah,
you?
I just
Can
answered
you
it.
preface it with yes or no and then explain?
I just answered it. I just said
Well, I'm sorry, I
we have a
didn't.
part of us. Yeah, that I said it is not the thoughts, the things in our brain that happen in our brain. Our brain interacts with our environment, but we have something that transcends our brain that understands, that is aware of what our brain is doing, that understands, that's aware of our consciousness.
Why can't that just be
So there's
another
a
part of your
possibility
brain
here.
processing your cognition? We
Before
have
we get to that,
metacognition, Angel.
it's totally possible that I'm really stupid. That is one of the possibilities. But based on what you said, I have no idea if the answer to my question is yes or no. Now, either it's because I'm stupid or you didn't actually answer the question. Could you just
The
give
other
me a
guy
yes or a
understood.
no?
That's why he responded. I mean, what? Yes, I keep saying yes. It's not the same thing. I mean, what else do you want me to say? It's not the same thing.
But
The things you find in your
but I
brain,
don't, I
the
don't see
atoms,
how that's.
is
I
not
don't
the
see
same
how
thing.
that's. I don't see how that's coherent, or
It's
I don't
very
see how you can
coherent.
put that together with what you said earlier. Because
Well,
earlier you said our wave nature contains all of the information about the system, including
yeah,
counterfactuals. So
yes,
if my wave nature can
transcends your
transmit all of the information about me, that would include my thoughts.
yes, yeah, of course. It
Then
transcends
there
your
is
physical
no
nature.
difference between the atoms that make up my brain
It's
and
a
the
big
thoughts
difference.
that my brain
You know
has.
what the big difference is? Your atoms are stuck in 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time. Your wave nature is not. Your wave nature can spread out all throughout space. That's what a wave nature does. It can spread out
Space
all
is
throughout space, and
what?
it's not
You
confined to
telling me that
one
space
one
isn't
dimensional time.
three-dimensional?
No, but I'm saying your wave nature can spread out all throughout. When you measure a particle, a subatomic particle like an electron, the
What
wave
you
nature of
just
the
said makes
electron.
no
Hold up,
sense. You said my
but
physical body is limited by three
hold
dimensions
up.
of space and 1 dimension of time. The
But this is
energy, the
because
wave nature that comes off of
you're not
my body
understanding
or
quantum
whatever
mechanics.
would do the exact same thing. It
You're
can
not
only
understanding.
travel through
Hold up.
space and through time.
You're not understanding quantum mechanics. Our wave nature, a
I'm
wave
not
nature
even
of the.
trying
Hold
to
up.
understand quantum mechanics. I'm just listening to you. I'm not
Yeah,
understanding you.
but
Maybe
a
I'm the
wave.
idiot. That is one of the
You are.
possibilities.
That could be a possibility because our wave nature, look, our wave nature spreads. I don't know how I can say it much simpler. If I go to measure
What
an
you're saying is
electron,
not simple at
hold up.
all.
If
It's
I
so
hold up,
not simple.
it is. If I go to measure
No.
hold up. If I go to measure an electron, it'll be either spin up or spin down. After I
Yeah.
measure the electron, its wave nature is spread out according to Schrodinger's equation throughout space. It's not the electron or the spread out throughout space. It's its wave nature that's spread out all throughout space until it starts to interact with the environment again. So, I mean, I don't know why that's hard for you to understand that if you,
That's not what I
your
wasn't
wave nature
understanding.
is
The
your
reason
wave
the
nature.
reason I got so
Your wave
animated
nature
was
is
because you said
connected to
matter is limited by
Planck's
3 dimensions of
consciousness.
space and 1 dimension of time, but somehow the
But I'm
energy
saying
that
your
emanates from
particle
matter
nature,
isn't when it
your
is.
particle nature is stuck in 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time.
Voice, I'll get you on here in a second. Okay. I don't think we can go anywhere else with this. Angel, and I also plan on not being on for all that much longer. Is that fine with you?
Yeah, that's fine. But at least every time I come on here, you move your goalpost a little bit further. I'm glad about that. At least you will admit.
What did I admit?
At least you will admit that there's a part of us that science shows that exists after death, our wave nature, our de Broglie wavelength. It clearly shows that connected to our Planck's constant.
Something
and
after
there's a
death, not life after death.
Yes, it's like, and all I would ask you to do is read on what's contained in your wave nature. You'll be shocked when you see what the wave function contains
Oopsie
in your
daisy.
wave nature. It contains much more than your particle nature.